You should be able to see our first slide here, just letting you know about our partnership. And I'm going to now introduce Bob Erdeshek. He is the founder of Profology. Profology has been a member of NISOD for a couple of years now and truly is an invaluable resource for our members. I'll let Bob tell you a little bit more about the tools that Profology offers. Take it away, Bob.
Thank you so much, Brittany, and thank you to NISOD as well for hosting this joint webinar series with us. We're very excited about it. This is the first of several. We have at least 4 that we're going to do, 2 of which are scheduled and a couple others that we'll be adding later. But let me tell you a little bit about Profology. Profology is built by professors for professors. It's the only online community that addresses the complexity of working in higher education, including the demands of teaching, research, and career development. It's a place where you can share and collaborate with colleagues across academia, share course and teaching resources, discuss career issues, and enjoy discipline-specific content curated for you, whether you're a faculty member, an adjunct, a tenured professor, administrator, a dean, whatever. Profology is free. No undergraduates are allowed, so it's a safe place to be, and it's a great place to continue the conversations that we have here. So we hope that you'll join your colleagues on profology.com. That being said, I'd like to introduce our presenter today, Dr. Larry Miller. He is formerly the director of NISOD. He is also a Profology member, and he is currently the Senior Director of Community College Relations at the new Media Consortium. And without further ado, I want to let Larry get to community colleges and educational technology, what lies ahead. Go ahead, Larry.
Well, thank you, Bob, and also thank you, Brittany. I'm very pleased to be part of this series. It's a really kind of a sweet spot for me between 3 organizations that I have a lot of respect for and have had some really great involvement with. The NMC, New Media Consortium, brought me on about a year ago to help out specifically with community colleges. And so in that respect, I'm able to bring to you some information about what lies ahead. And let's start right now by acknowledging that the future is in many ways already here. My friend Larry Johnson acknowledges that it's already here, but the difficulty is that it's very unevenly distributed. So parts of the future are more prominent than others. And part of what the NMC does is work to try and see what is out there in the form of educational technologies that are emerging, and what some of those trends are, some of those challenges are. The Horizon Project is where this stuff takes place, and this was launched by CEO President Larry Johnson in 2002, and it was an effort to look at these technology trends and see what's going to happen in terms of when those technologies come into specifically higher education. So once there was just the one Horizon report, it was the Higher Education Edition, and the first one came out in 2004. Now, interestingly enough, Profology founder Bob Erdeshek and I were both on that initial advisory panel to do that, and we really have never connected again until we were at NISOD last year. So it's sort of a interesting come around on that. Now, the Horizon Report K-12 edition was started about 6 years ago. And we have Horizon Report Museum edition, which came out the next year. And then this past year, 2014, there was a Horizon Report for libraries. And so altogether, there's 49 editions of Horizon Project publications. They've been translated into over 55 different languages. So this is 13 years of research into emerging technologies. Once again, there was the original higher ed version, But now we have these sector and regional analysis publications, and they follow a similar process to the Horizon report for higher education. One of them that was done a couple of years ago when I was at NISOD was specifically for two-year colleges. I'm very much hoping that the NMC and NISOD can work together to find a funding source to bring us another version of this very soon. One of the most recent regional publications was on Scandinavian schools, and this just came out. But the one we're talking about today is the one for higher education, and it just came out a couple of weeks ago, so this is very, very new information. Now, one of the things with all of the Horizon Project publications is that they are all freely available for download. So this is the URL for the specific Right to It Higher Education 2015 version, but you can get there by going to nmc.org. I'll show you how in just a bit. But as I say, these are freely available. And right now, all of these different publications, Horizon Report publications, are coming to people at the rate of about 14,000 downloads a day. Now, this is a distribution of about 30 days worth of downloads. And as you can see, the impact of these are very global, and the NMC itself is a very, very global organization. I wanted to acknowledge that the Horizon Project, and particularly the higher education with an EDUCAUSE Learning Initiative, ELI, and they're great partners for the NMC and have worked together for years. But this partnership brings us this publication. So let's talk about the process real quickly. What happens is the NMC convenes advisory boards, and these are typically between 40 and example, within higher education, most of the people on the panel were within higher education, but there were some other industry and some other ancillary areas that bring some real value to the process. The participation is by invitation from the NMC staff, but it also includes a process for self-nomination. So if you are interested in being part of a Horizon Project advisory board, you can submit your name and why you think you would contribute to Horizon Project is done within a wiki environment. And over the years, the NMC has developed a very robust engine for handling this are these different steps. And it starts with an orientation. It's sort of a training thing. On other Horizon Project panels have a better understanding, but there's a nice blend of new and it helps out the whole process. There are some definite readings and then research questions that are posed. And within that, people what's important in the emerging technologies. Then these are organized by, and there's on it, and eventually we get to the material that the staff takes. So now there's more than just an emphasis on emerging technologies. And one of the things that's important is to see that there's that's involved on this. The topics that come within are looked at in terms of how they're going to impact policy, leadership, and practice. trends, significant challenges, and those important developments in educational technologies. It used to be that it was essentially just a list of here's what's coming down in 3 to 5 years and things like that. Now with this emphasis on trends and challenges, I think it's a much more robust process, and the documents reflect that. Again, there's short-term, the mid-term, and the long-term view on these different aspects. So here's a infographic that the NMC, the challenges, the trends, and the technologies, and it's all in this one neat little thing. But I'm going to go through these now. And so when we say 1 to 2 years, pretty much means it's on top of us. So right now, the panel determined that there was an increasing use of blended learning. Community colleges probably are experiencing this ourselves, and we're doing more of the hybrid between the online and the classroom. So that's definitely a trend that's impacting us. Interesting thing, and it's been in various Horizon reports over the past few years, but it really emerged as being significant and really a trend that's right on us, and that is redesigning learning spaces. And if you look at things like libraries and how libraries have evolved very quickly from being warehouses of books and volumes of publications and so forth, into gathering spaces and spaces with special technologies and spaces with useful areas for group work and things like that. So in the further out, the mid-range, there's going to be a growing focus on measuring learning. And this is certainly impacting us already. Part of this is a result of things like accreditation. And in the K-12 world, you have things like high-stake testing. And you know, those are definitely reasons that we have to do more measurement. But there's also the reason for doing more measurement in that we know better how to construct our learning specifically to make our students be more successful and to give them the right types of information for when they go forward. Of course, you know, with two-year institutions, there is much more of a focus on career outcomes. So measuring those outcomes, you know, in terms of hiring community college graduates is a very important thing. We're also seeing a tremendous growth in open education resources. And open education resources are, think of open resources in terms of in computing sense like Linux. If you look in educational areas, an organization like Merlot is focused upon open resources for learning objects. Even things like Flickr with its Creative Commons licensing allows content creators to make those resources available in an open sense. So there's a tremendous growth in that as well. Now out there, and I'll be honest, when you're saying 5+ years, we're not really sure, but you know, I think we can agree that organizations like community colleges have to be adaptive and have to be innovative. And so we're seeing more and more of the growth of entities that are developing a culture of change and cultures that are more accepting of change. And I'll be very honest, I think community colleges have a tremendous advantage in the higher education landscape because I think we move quicker. I've always said that community colleges are the gazelles and the universities tend to be more like elephants. You know, they're both effective animals in their own way, but I think we can move quicker in the two-year area. We will be seeing over the long term more and more cross-institutional collaboration. And again, community colleges are doing this. Organizations such as the Iowa Community College Online Consortium, it's been around for years, but it's a great example of how the institutions in that state that are two-year institutions have gotten together, and they've come up with some wonderful metrics and resources available for making online learning very, very effective. The state of Washington and their state system for community and technical colleges has a open resources consortium so that people are sharing that type of information. So in a lot of ways, again, community colleges, I think, do this better, but this is going to be a trend that we're all going to be experiencing in higher education over the next 5+ years. Now, challenges. You know, there's different types of challenges. The solvable challenges, we might call this the low-hanging fruit, are ones that we really know what's going on, and we actually even know how to solve them. Sometimes we don't solve them, but then there's more difficult challenges. We know that there are solutions, but sometimes bringing them into play is a lot more difficult. And then there are what we call wicked challenges, and those are really, really complex. Sometimes we can't even define what the challenge is exactly. So that makes it much more difficult to actually address them. So let's look at the solvable challenges from the Higher Ed 2015 Horizon Report. We see blended formal and informal learning. Now, I am a huge proponent of informal learning and its power. And I think that one of the challenges that we have is that there is just tremendous amounts of informal learning taking place on the part of our students and in some of our continuing education programs, for example. But how do we capture that? And how do we blend that formal classroom learning with what we might be having our students experience through a service learning project, for example? Improving digital literacy. Well, we've been saying this forever, but the thing is, digital literacy itself keeps changing. Years ago, we used to talk about digital literacy and knowing how to put a CD into a tray and access information, and how to use a word processor. That was pretty sufficient digital literacy at one point. Now we have all kinds of different things. We have learning management systems. We have enterprise networking systems that we run colleges on. We have all kinds of wonderful tools, digital tools for developing content. And then we have the whole social media realm. So this is going to be a challenge for us, and we do know how to solve it, but we're not always doing that. So another difficult challenge is personalized learning, and this is an area that is increasingly important, and it's specifically important, for example, within some of the, for example, continuing education, where community colleges are helping their clients in developing training. And you don't want to train everybody to do the same thing. You need to personalize it so the right people at the right job are getting the right training at the right time. So that personalization is probably more significant in those environments. In a more traditional classroom environment and the lower level intro courses and so forth, we don't quite have that same need for personalization, but it's important and it's a challenge for sure. Now, another one is teaching complex thinking. And this borders on the wicked challenge because defining complex thinking is a bit of a challenge in itself. But what we do know is that just mastery of information is no longer sufficient. What the business and industry people that hire two-year college graduates really want is they want the ability for them to come in and to make an impact right away, and to be able to understand that the complexities of the job are not things that you're necessarily going to have learned in a classroom, but the processes for attacking those complex elements of work can be taught. So teaching complex thinking as part of our regular curriculum as opposed to memorization is something that is definitely a difficult challenge, but there's a lot of places that are doing it very, very well. Probably some people on your campus are doing it very, very well right now. Now here we are with the wicked challenges. So I think this is interesting because in the past edition, 2014 edition, this did appear as a challenge, but it wasn't a wicked challenge. And this year it became wicked for some reason. But what we're talking about are competing models of education are things such as the for-profit sector. And, for-profit higher education has been a booming industry, and it's been a profitable industry. Now, I know a lot of people that work in higher education at state universities, community colleges, liberal arts colleges, etc. They're saying, well, we're better than the University of Phoenix or Capella or something like that. Well, in a lot of ways we probably are, but that's not necessarily the point. The point is the competition for the students. Now, even though the University of Phoenix has had some decline in their population of students over the past few years, they still have 350,000 students. So we have to understand there's something going on there that is making students pay attention to what they're doing and really taking them away from what community colleges are doing in many cases. So this is a wicked problem. Further, evidence of this one, I don't think I need to present in any way, because I think many of you probably feel like you're not fully rewarded for the teaching you're doing. And I wouldn't disagree with that one bit. It's even more difficult these days in a political environment where the very profession of teaching is under attack, and in environments where compensation for teaching is stagnating quite a bit, where the option of hiring adjunct faculty is very attractive to administration because of fiscal constraints. All of these lead to the challenge of how do we really reward teaching. Fortunately, there's some great ways to do it. One of them, quite frankly, is to create great professional development experiences for your faculty. So we'll try to make some progress on the wicked challenges, but these are the ones that are really tough. All right, so let's move on to the what used to be the emerging technologies in higher education. So first off, I want you to know that the NMC looks at a lot of different material. And it's not just within the learning spectrum. The staff and the people that are participating in the Horizon Project and the people that serve on the advisory panels are looking at a wide variety, because if you're not looking at consumer technologies and you're not looking at social media technologies, then you're missing out on the things that are going to come along. And so it's a very comprehensive way of looking at things. There's a huge number of specific technologies that are evaluated during the Horizon Project, and they get down to these. So here are the 1 year or less, in other words, the things that are happening right now, and this is probably happening on your college campus right now, and that's you're finding that students are bringing their own devices, and there's some data that shows that students are showing up with 2 or 3 devices that can indeed and will indeed connect to your campus network, assuming you're allowing that to happen. And at this point, the strategy better be, how do we let this happen, not how do we prevent it? Because this is the preferred way of doing things. The mobile device revolution is impacting education very, very heavily. Flipped classrooms. Well, flipped classrooms have been around for a few years now, but they're really, really gaining some traction. A couple of years ago, when I was at NISOD, we did a really cool series of webinars with the company Soft Chalk, and we called it the Flipped Classroom Success Stories. And there were some just tremendous things happening at community colleges as they related to the flipping of the classroom. And of course, this is where you're providing the heavy load of content in terms of homework, and then the students are able to bring the content that they've learned into your classroom environments and to do things with them in an applied sense. And particularly very interesting results come about with teamwork. So the flipped classroom is right on us right now, and I hope you're doing something with it. So if we look at the next year in the kind of mid-range, this has been something that has been bubbling up for years in different forms within the Horizon Project, but it's now called maker spaces, and sometimes it's called the maker movement because it's a tremendous kind of societal thing that people want to develop their own content and they want to make their own stuff. So a lot of libraries and colleges and universities are creating environments for things to take place. And one of the most common types of technology that comes into makerspaces is 3D printing. And 3D printing has been in the Horizon Project and the reports for years. In fact, going back to that very first one in 2004, when it was referred to as rapid prototyping. But now we are seeing that the maker space and the maker movement is really becoming a very significant factor, and it's something that a lot of colleges are already making their physical environments have spaces in there for people to do stuff, and there can be 3D printers, it can be vinyl cutters, it can be television production facilities, it can be a lot of different things. I've even heard of sewing machines being made available in maker spaces. Now, I think wearable technology is a kind of a fascinating concept, and I think when we were talking about wearable technology a couple of years ago, we were talking about the promise of Google Glass. My understanding is that Google has really pulled back from that, and it's just not evolving quickly enough. I would say that it will, and I think it's just a matter of maybe Google Glass was conceptually ahead of its time and technologically a bit of a disappointment. But there are other wearable technologies too, and I think if you look around, you see the things such as Fitbits and other biometric devices that we're wearing are very common, and I think there are definitely some educational applications that are going to be taking advantage of those devices. But GoPro cameras on a helmet is actually a wearable technology. So I think this is something that's interesting. It seemed sort of science fiction futuristic a few years ago, but we're seeing it actually come to be a little bit unevenly perhaps, but wearable technology be something to look at. So if we go out to the 4 to 5 year horizon, we're looking at adaptive learning technologies. And the panel thought that this was something that is significant. And, you know, it used to be, if we used this term in educational technology, we were really talking about adaptive technologies that would assist people with disabilities, for example. But I think in this iteration, what we're really looking at are technologies that are themselves capable of adapting. And so they almost take on an aspect of artificial intelligence. And so there's going to be some stuff that'll be very, very important. It's a little bit out there right now, but it's coming. And again, the Internet of Things is something that is in the 4 to 5 year horizon as far as higher education is concerned, but it's certainly something that's coming into our homes right now. I'm not sure if you could actually hear this, but a few minutes ago, my thermostat decided to speak to me. I have a thermostat that controls our heating and air conditioning in our house, and it's a talking thermostat, but it's also connected to the internet. So, for example, I can go over and I would get the correct time, I would get the outdoor temperature, and I would get the outdoor humidity. I can actually press a button and see right on my thermostat a weather forecast for the next 8 hours. So it is getting that information because it is actually a wireless device that's connected to our home internet, and that's how it works. So this is the Internet of Things. So, you know, we jokingly refer to as the toaster that's connected to the web, but, you know, that's certainly doable. There's probably more important things than a toaster to use. But we can see how, in terms of learning and in terms of what you're doing at your community college, how the Internet of Things is going to definitely be more and more of a factor. And we're going to have to figure out how in higher education we take advantage of the technology. And also, you know, when we talk about taking advantage of the technology, we have to also think in terms of what our curricular responses are to some of these things. So, for example, if we go back to wearable technology here, now, you know, somebody's going to have to make this stuff. Somebody's going to have to fix this stuff. Somebody's going to have to show other people how to use this stuff. So this is an opportunity that our institutions will embrace because that's what we do. And we're going to figure out how to make the Internet of Things be part of our curriculum, not just in the sense of devices for a particular discipline, like, you know, obviously you think in terms of lab instruments in a chemistry lab or something like that, hooked up to the internet. Well, that's happening already. But how we might evolve curricular programs that will develop people that can actually work in these professional fields. So, how accurate have the projections been for the Horizon projects over the years? Well, they're really pretty darn good. And I'll give you the example of the 3D printing. In 2004, when the Horizon report for higher education came out and it mentioned rapid prototype and 3D printing, I'm pretty sure that was the very first publication that actually acknowledged the relationship between higher education and that technology. In a similar fashion, and I can remember being in a room in Atlanta, Georgia, with the advisory group, and we were talking about this phenomenon that we were sort of recognizing that we were really having a bit of a problem identifying what to call it. We did know that there was a different way that people were using the internet, and it wasn't so much one-to-one, it was more collective. And we had some things like Friendster that were out there, which allowed people to work interactively together. Now, most of these were actually, you know, another one like this is games, by the way. So we didn't know what to call this stuff, and I remember NMC CEO Larry Johnson said, you know, I think we'll probably wind up calling it social networking. Well, you know, if Larry had gone out and taken the trademark out on that term right now, he'd be a pretty wealthy guy, I think, because that's how far back we were. Now, you know, it's not always the time frame that is, you know, accurate. Again, going back to 3D printing, we said 3D printing would be there in 5 years, and it really took more like 10 years to get into the higher education landscape. But all in all, it's been quite good. I created this Wordle. I just took the emerging technologies, and I really didn't do the 5-year and out. I just did the first couple iterations of it, and took all the ones that were identified in 12 years worth of higher ed horizon projects. And you know, the Wordle thing is, the more the word appears, the bigger it is. So, you know, we obviously see computing and learning as the big words here. And that's what educational technology is at its essence. It's the intersection of computing and learning. But you'll see some other ones. Mobile is certainly big, but that's you know, an indication that we've been looking at the right stuff over the years. So things like tablet, augmented reality, some of these things are coming a little quicker for some people than for others. That's the nature of technology. It's the nature of adoption. So, you know, this has been about higher education, but community colleges in higher education in this report, are they reflected? And yes, absolutely. So here are some of the specific schools or organizations that relate to community colleges that are directly mentioned in the Higher Ed 2015 edition. And I would definitely think that we could use more community college input. And here's some different ways you can do this. If you're doing Twitter, and I hope you are, if you use the hashtag NMCHZ, that's Horizon, then that's going to be gleaned by the NMC staff or people that are on the advisory panels, and it's just a way of being able to gather some really good articles or reports or other things along that way. I would really, really encourage those of you that are at community colleges or those that aren't, if you are interested in being on the advisory board for future versions of Horizon reports, please find your way to the NMC website, and the simple way of doing it is nmc.org, but the way that'll get you right to it is this gonmc.org/horizon-nominate. So that will take you right there to the form. You fill out the form and tell them why you would be a contributor of value, and maybe you'll get picked. I think you should try for sure. And then the NMC is always looking for specific projects, and you can again submit projects that you're doing at your institution where you are using some of the technologies that we've discussed, or maybe some of them that weren't in this, but you think are important, and you can submit them for inclusion in future versions. Now, this is the NMC website, and it's nmc.org. And if you go up to where the arrow is pointing up there to the Horizon area and click on that, you will find all the stuff about the Horizon project. You can download every one of the various publications, the Technology Outlook reports, the regional reports, and the Horizon reports themselves. And this would include K-12 museums and libraries, as well as higher ed. And they're all free, and you should get them and you should use them. One of the things people tell me all the time is the Horizon report is useful to me because I can put this in front of my administration and I can say, we need to do this. Look who's doing it. We need to be part of this. And so this is, just all good stuff, and it's all available. The NMC makes it available to you, and I encourage you to go and get it. So with that, I am Larry Miller, also known as Lawrence G. Miller, and this is my Twitter handle, and I please, I beg of you, follow me. I tweet every day, and I really put out some quality stuff, and I focus on educational technology, community colleges, higher education, informal learning, online learning, stuff that you want to know about. So if you'll follow me, I'd appreciate it. You can also contact me at the NMC, and larry.miller@nmc.org. I'd be happy to correspond with you. And if I can help you in any other way, just let me know. And with that, I think we're at a point of wrap up, but I do want to encourage you to consider joining us in the NISOD Prophology Professional Development webinar series on April the 7th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 1 p.m. for those of you in Austin, Texas, and places like that. And you can figure out the rest. But we're going to be talking about community college facilities that unleash the power of engaged learning. And part of this relates back to that informal that we saw had emerged. Facilities that are available that do some really interesting stuff on community colleges. So that's what we're going to do at that point. And Brittany, I'm not quite able to actually see questions. If you have a couple of them you can toss to me, I can handle that, or whatever else is appropriate.
Absolutely. We actually do not have any questions. You did such a great job explaining everything that we don't have any questions. This is now the time, if anybody listening has any questions, to type those in to Larry.
While you're waiting, I have a question, Larry.
Yeah.
This is Bob Erdischek. So blended learning not blended learning, flipped classroom in community colleges. Now, certainly it's been something that's been talked about for a while, and I think people are using it. But, does the NMC site have resources related to that and some of the other items? In other words, more than just an overview, an opportunity to delve in and find out how to take advantage of some of these upcoming technologies, or the ones that are currently existing, and how to use them?
Well, I think you'll find in the publication, the PDF publication that you can download in higher education, you're going to find some interesting case studies. But in terms of flipped classrooms specifically, there really isn't like the depth of focus that you can get. So there's this thing called FLN. It's the Flipped Learning Network. And I really encourage people to look at that. A lot of flipped classroom type stuff really is still driven by K-12. But I think it's fine. I think there is so much we can learn from really great innovation that takes place in the K-12 environment that we can apply. I mean, the content's going to be a little different, but the way they do it is what we should look at. So I would encourage on the flipped classroom stuff to look at flipped FLN, Flipped Learning Network, and you can Google that, or it's probably just fln.org or something. But it's a great resource. And let me just tell you real briefly about what I think is one of the finest examples. The community colleges in Kentucky have partnered with the automotive industry. And of course, Kentucky is a huge auto center now. And they have created this amazing curriculum for things like auto repair, auto parts, logistics. There's a lot of richness to it. And it's the Kentucky Community and Technical College System that I believe is the lead educational institution on it. And just the quality of what they have produced in terms of the content, and they actually show you how they integrate not just the videos, because flipped learning is more than just the videos, it's how you apply that knowledge. And so how they're actually using this with devices like welding processes that take place on auto assembler lines and stuff. It is just amazing. It is so deep and so rich and so well thought out.
Wow.
Larry, we do have a great question here from Mark, who has asked, what are your thoughts on gamification in higher education, and do you have any success stories that stand out?
Oh, yeah, it's very interesting. Somehow gamification had, if you go back over the last 4 years of the Horizon reports, you're going to see gamification in it. What happens on this is stuff kind of gets squeezed out. And I'm a huge advocate of games and game-based learning. There's just so much power to it. And, where I developed my keen awareness of how powerful games are for learning, my son, Michael, when he was probably in the 3rd grade, was playing this game called Sim City. And I'm sure a lot of us remember Sim City. You constructed a city. And, I'm kind of looking over his shoulder, and he's building this city. And he turns to me, he said, "Dad, when's the best time to sell municipal bonds to fund a hospital?" The kid was in the 3rd grade. And what he had learned about, urban planning and government and things like that was so profound through that game. So I'm a huge believer in the power of learning. Frankly, the learning through play is really, really powerful. And, the effort that people make into learning what it takes to be really good at World of Warcraft, for example, is just astounding. And we need to harness that type of energy and that type of interest in learning in our colleges and universities. I wish we could do that better, but I also know that there are some places that are doing it already. And some of those, particularly if you go back into the 2012, 13, 14 Horizon reports, you'll probably find some case studies, and they're probably still very viable in terms of institutions that are doing some really cool things with gamification, game-based learning.
We have a question from Ronald, who has asked, do you have an example of a flipped classroom being effective in an academic rather than vocational introductory course?
Right. I don't remember the details of it, but I know in that Soft Chalk, if you go to softchalk.com and click on their webinar, and Brittany, are those webinars still available from NISOD? I think they're probably behind the firewall. I'm not sure.
They may be. Yeah, if you email me, I might be able individually, Ronald or anybody who may be interested. My contact information is on nisod.org. I might be able to find those for you.
Yeah, because there were 4 in that series, and the one on autos was, you know, obviously the heavy career tech, but I'm pretty sure there was one on chemistry or physics. I can't remember, and I believe there was one on public speaking as well. So there's some great examples of you know, case studies. More the academic core and the liberal arts part of what we do at community colleges.
There is one question here. I'm not sure. Science. Do you have anything that was found from medical science?
Oh gosh. One of the things that you know has gone medical education. I worked in a hospital for 8 years, and I'm pretty familiar with a lot of what goes on. But you know, to be real honest, at the physician training level, it's kind of traditional, and I don't think it's a discipline that has fully embraced technology. One exception to that might be in the area of simulation. So, for example, there are amazing mannequins that are available. There's a company called Laerdal, and there's another company that's their competitor that I've forgotten their name of, I'm sorry. But they make these patient simulators, and they are so realistic. I remember when I was working as the chief academic officer at Sneed State Community College in Alabama, going in and watching nursing students who were working with one of these simulated patient mannequins, and the patient is speaking to you, its chest is rising, it's exhibiting these different characteristics, and you know, just watching these nursing students in teams trying to grapple with what they had to do, and just watching their sheer shock when they realized that they'd killed the patient was pretty profound. So there's a lot of really good stuff that should be applied to medical education, medical sciences in particular.
I think that those are all the questions that we have for now. Let me see here, just making sure that we got everything. The student affairs practitioner in me is very excited about our webinar next month. So hopefully everyone will be able to join us again for the community college facilities, Unleashing the Power of Engaged Learning. And I do have a couple of questions about where to find these Horizon reports. nmc.org. At the top, you can see it says Horizon Report, and there you'll be able to find all of the past education reports and K through 12 reports. They're really awesome, so I definitely recommend checking that out. We do have a question from Carrie who said, what about health information technology and health information management? Given the meaningful use initiative, wouldn't technology incorporation into those disciplines profession teaching?
Absolutely, and again, when I worked at the hospital, I worked in human resources in organizational development. One of the challenges we had was taking really great nurses and making them into really great nurse managers. So there's a whole aspect of what you might call the organizational or business side of healthcare that practitioners have to relearn different things. And there's some actually really pretty good stuff that's out there that does some of it in terms of the clinical side, but also in terms of the management side. Not being very specific there, but there's stuff.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Larry, do you mind sharing these slides with us so that we can post them with the recording?
I will send them to you immediately.
Okay, great. Well, we will get the recording and the slides posted this afternoon. So again, feel free to share these with your colleagues. I want to thank Larry and Bob again for joining NISOD today and Pathology to make this webinar series happen.
Thanks, Brittany.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Well, we'll see all of you next month, April 7th at 1 p.m. Central. That's my time, 2 p.m. Eastern. All right. Y'all have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.